Welcome to This Time Now, where the laughs are loud. From shared traumas to current poca vergüenzas, nothing's off the table.
The show blends humor, healing, and real talk, with a few tears in between. It's safe and judgment-free.
Here you can dream out loud. We're two cousins with a deep bond and even deeper convos, showing up with laughter, real talk,
And the kind of honesty that heals. It's familia, it's safe, and it's real. Come on, pull up a seat and pour yourself a cafecito.
You're hanging with your favorite primos.
Welcome back, primos. I'm Lou.
And I'm Lel. Glad to have you guys back with us. All right, let's get into it. What's been going on?
I just recently came back from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
I had a really good time out there.
Okay.
And it was just amazing. The weather was beautiful. I think it only rained like one day. It poured. But it was amazing from the minute I got out there. Perfect temperature that I love.
Okay.
It was 4 of us going out there, and 2 of us got out there first. So one was my brother, and there was 2 other cousins.
Okay.
I got out there with a cousin first. Then from there, I stood in the airport for a really long time because he came in like 2 hours after me, and so we just had to
Wait for each other.
Right. And so once he got out there, I was a little concerned because I had never traveled with him.
Okay.
And so he ended up being the cousin that I ended up really having a good time
The
with.
most fun with.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was really dope. We got out there, the area where we stood, it wasn't too far from the airport. We could actually see the airport. We were right across from it.
Okay.
In Carolina, so that was beautiful. So we were taking Ubers out there, and Uber is super cheap.
Okay.
I haven't seen prices like that in a really long time.
Really?
Because out here, almost everything costs like $20.
Okay.
It was like $5, $6. 11 was like really, really far
away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was really good to see. And then one of the days we ended up, while we were waiting, we were like, for the other 2 to come out. We were waiting we ended up going to a beach in like the montaña or whatever, on the mountainside.
Okay.
And we went not late in the day, but we spent most of the day out there, and we had planned, there was some restaurants, so we were planning on walking to the restaurants.
Okay.
And we waited till the sun went down. And it was probably like 30 minutes before the sun went down. And then as we started walking, the GPS was taking us. It showed 15 minutes, and then it started going from 15 all the way to 28.
What? Were you going the opposite way or something?
No, we were going in the right direction. It was just we were following the path, and then from there, it was just the time just kept on increasing.
Oh my God.
And so at this point, the sun is already starting to come down. They have like these little restaurants that you could see on the side of, like, on the way to the other restaurants, but they were closed. And so at this point, I'm like, all right, it's starting to get dark. He's playing Bad Bunny, like the same song over and over.
That was your theme? The theme song?
Oh my God. And so at this point, I'm getting scared, and every intrusive thought that was coming in his mind was happening. You know what I'm saying? He was saying it, and I was getting frustrated because I kept on ordering Ubers, and they kept on canceling on us. So at this point, we are, it's already dark. The only lights that are visible, because we're on the side of a montaña, is the ones from the cars.
Oh my God.
So after the third Uber had canceled on us, and I told him to shut up and stop making noise and to shut off the music so that I could think, and for him to get off of the road before he becomes roadkill. I was then able to remember that I had an Uber driver's, one of the first Uber drivers that we took, I had her number. Okay. And so I was able to think,
that was smart.
Her. Yeah, it was a very smart thing that I did. So that's a tip for you guys if you're taking a trip. So then I ordered one, and when I sent her my location, she said, "You're pretty far." So at this point, we're scared. I'm more scared, right? Because I can't think at this point. So I was like, I ordered one. Let me confirm with her that she's actually coming through, and then I'll call you back. So I called the Uber driver that was supposed to pick us up, and she said, yeah, but she said we had to flag her down because of where we were.
She couldn't even see us.
She couldn't even see us. So the road was so small that she had to do a U-turn and she had to do it quick
Dude.
because the cars were coming.
Oh my
The
god.
cars were coming. So finally, she ended up being one of our cousins, having the same name as one of our cousins. So I call her my angel. And then from there, ya se me quitó la gana de comer. So we went right back to the house and we stood in we stood in the area and we were playing pool, eating at the restaurants around there. And then the next day, my brother and the other cousin got there. And we went to the La Placita. And
How was that? I've heard that's really fun. I've never been there. Even as many times I've been to Puerto Rico, I've never been there.
It's bar after bar after bar, and you're just walking out. They have hookahs and all that stuff. It's like a really, really good vibe, but it's very touristy.
Okay.
But I mean, for the first time, like, what are you gonna do, right? You're gonna
which
enjoy
would make it a little safer, I guess, than going into more in deep. So you still get the vibe without the danger.
My brother.
He wanted to go in deep. I can imagine.
Yeah. And so after that we just like spent a lot of time out there going to different beaches and just having fun, and it was a really good time. At the end of the trip, I left before them. One of the Uber drivers that was taking me to the airport, he was like, "How did you like it?" And I was crying. I was crying because I didn't want to come back.
Aww.
I didn't want to come back. I wanted to
know,
stay.
I feel that way every time I go.
When I got to like TSA, I was like, "Please tell me I can't go. Please tell me I can't go. I won't fight you. I won't fight you." And we had a really good time. And that was it. And I came back. I went to work the very next day.
Oh my God, you're crazy.
La vida es pobre.
No, not. It is what it is. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a really good time, and I plan on going back. They have this trip. They have these beach parties for 7 days. I'm only going for 3.
Okay.
I'm taking a short trip out there, and I don't know if it happens on different beaches, but yeah, it's EDM. It's my type of music, and so.
Oh, that sounds so fun. I'm happy for you. And I'm so excited that you're going to do that. I'm happy you had such a good time. I love it. Every time I come back, I'm like, oh, I wish it could be longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, we got to work.
Absolutely. What about you? What you been up to?
An interesting thing that I've been doing lately, I've mentioned to you for a while now that I wanted to write a book, right? Specifically a children's book. So, I jumped in and I'm doing it. Okay. So, I have the book. The script is written. I'm working with an illustrator. We just had a phone call yesterday. He was showing me some character designs and stuff like that. So it's been pretty interesting. I'm excited. It's something I've been wanting to do probably since I had, I'm a grandma. So probably since I became a grandma, just specifically to want to do a children's book.
Right.
But ever since Mommy passed, I wanted to figure out a way to kind of merge that. Yeah. And I think I did that. I think I made a character and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that it at minimum, hopefully I'm a bestseller and it's woo, woo, woo.
There you go.
But at minimum, I think it's something beautiful that, her legacy can live on, through something like that. So I'm excited over that.
Awesome. That's cool. Yeah. Do you have a name for a book? Yeah, or?
I do. I have the name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything that in the creation of this process of creating the podcast that actually helped you?
Oh, yeah. Everything you taught me. These Google Docs and getting organized and the calendar, because now I'm juggling the book and I'm juggling the podcast. I got to use that calendar, make sure that I'm not, I'm scheduling myself correctly. And, ChatGPT, of course, he's like the best assistant. Like he keeps you organized, that guy, I call him that guy, my boy Chad. But a lot of the processes that, you taught me and that I learned, with doing this podcast, I've been able to implement them and, help, especially in like organizing myself. So that's been pretty dope. That's been pretty dope.
Awesome.
Let's get into the hot brew.
Let's get into it.
So what's up with you? What's been going on? Anything caught your attention lately? Anything brewing out there that's caught your attention?
Every day, we are in the process, or I think we're on day 50 of the shutdown that has happened with the government. And so, lately who's been coming up a lot on my timeline and on my feed is Senator Kennedy.
Okay.
And really funny Republican, really funny.
Not RFK, a different one.
No, a different one.
Okay.
I don't even know what state he belongs to, but he's hilarious.
Really?
He's actually presenting 2 bills right now that if the government shuts down, that nobody gets paid. None of the
That's dope.
the senators or elected officials that are up there, that none of them get paid.
Oh, that's awesome.
For me, I didn't understand why that hasn't been in place for the longest already.
Right, because if nobody's getting paid, especially them, then it'll incentivize them to really move it and get it together.
Yeah.
If they're not getting paid, if they're getting paid, they can take their time because they want to do what they want to do
and go on vacation. Everybody's on vacation.
Crazy. Like, that part is really crazy.
Can you imagine if we did that at work? No.
Muchachos, nos botan pa rápido.
No, but one thing that came out positive is the people that stood working for the TSA, they're getting a $10,000 bonus. Those who stood, because other people, some of the TSA workers had to obviously make money and go feed their families and things like that. And so they, I don't know what was behind it or whatever, like if they took layoffs or furloughs or whatever it was, but there were people that showed up every day.
Without getting paid, wow.
Without getting paid.
That's
and so
tough.
people were donating for their lunch and things like that, for their gas, but the Homeland Security is giving them $10,000, those who stuck it out.
Wow, that's
And so
dope.
a lot of people are criticizing because it's like, why give them that?
Right.
It's on a merit basis. Who knows? But they stuck it out. Stuck it out.
Right. And not to take, I would say not to take anything, the ones that couldn't, because I'm pretty sure some people probably couldn't. But hey, listen, going to work every day, not getting paid for how many?
50
almost 2 months?
days, yeah, over.
Almost 2 months, people got mortgages, people got bills, so hey, it's well deserved. I approve. I approve. I hope they do get that. That sounds good. I like that.
Yeah, and so I think the resolution right now is that it's called a CR, continuing resolution. Don't quote me on that. Where they're going to, Medicaid is funded up until throughout the 2026 fiscal year. That's completely funded, or SNAP, something like that, something funded. Okay. So they came to that agreement, and then they have, they pointed out on a lot of the stuff that was shut down in the government was because of like bills that were funding other things across seas.
I always notice that, like every time I do, I'm not very political, but whenever I do look into these bills or, something comes up on my feed, that's the first thing I see. Okay, we're talking about these lights here, but now, can we pay for these lights? And then they throw in the air conditioner, and they throw in the floorboards, and they throw in so, people might want to pay for the lights, but not for the floorboards.
Right.
Do them individually, even if you do 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
Each situation should be individual. I think that's like the easiest thing and the thing that makes the most sense. And I would think they would have less problems. There wouldn't be as many shutdowns because everything can be handled separately.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a big deal because like they'll throw a million things that people want, and they'll throw one in there that they don't want to fight over. And then it causes a problem. Like, just handle them. That's like at work. Anywhere you go, nobody gives you a paper at work with 20,000 things. No, you got to do, There's a checklist. You do them separately. So, I agree with that. That definitely should be something that they should do.
Absolutely. And I think anything locally, you could do whatever you want, but anything that happens overseas, any funds, because that's taxpayer dollar.
Right.
I think it should be a bipartisan agreement.
And it's not?
It's not. It's not. They throw it in the bill, and then everybody votes, and it's like we're suffering here.
So they'll throw in local stuff with foreign stuff.
Yeah.
So that's part of what causes the issues too.
And so, that should be completely separate. It should be clear on what's happening, and everybody should agree on it, especially for the stuff overseas.
These are common sense things that you're mentioning. I'm so surprised that this is not like the norm. That's crazy.
No, that's why government is so messed up. Like I don't know. But what's hot brewing on your end?
Well, let's see. Oh, you know what I saw recently yesterday. We watch a lot of podcasts. That was one of why we wanted to start this on top of other things. Call Her Daddy. I don't know if you heard that one, because I know there's a few that we watched together. I'm not sure if that's one that you. But well, she had Monica Lewinsky on yesterday. You remember Monica Lewinsky,
Absolutely.
Bill Clinton, the whole 9 yards. So it was interesting because she's starting a podcast. So I guess she's doing her run, going on other people's podcasts, kind of promoting her stuff and talking about bringing up her old stuff. And it's crazy that I remember going to that happened in 1998. So I was like 18 at that time. Imagine.
Okay.
And she was 22 years old when she started this. Could you imagine? That's a baby.
Yeah.
They say your frontal lobe is not even developed.
Really?
So she's 22 and she gets into this relationship with a 49-year-old. Not just any 49-year-old, not just your boss, but the president of the United States, like the most in the world, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and yes, she knows she made a mistake, right? And I'm sure even at 22, she probably like, but I don't think she'd ever imagined it ever getting to that. So at 24, 2 years later, after having this, relationship, she's thinking she's in love. Everything blows up in her face. And you know why? Because she confided in a friend. We all do it.
Always.
We all do it. Like, hey, this is happening. What should I do? Sometimes it's like, what should I do? Should I, you really just confiding in someone. Homegirl set her up, was recording all their convos.
Wow.
At 24, they bum rush her in a mall. Mind you, she's 24, living with mom. Bum rush her. Didn't let her call her mom. Didn't let her call a lawyer. Threatening her to put her in jail. So she had no choice but to cooperate. You're a 24-year-old. Could you imagine being put in that position at 24?
Yeah.
And everything.
No.
Exactly.
I cannot imagine that.
And then just the way, everything that was the start of the internet, right? So social media wasn't out yet, but the internet was like in effect. So,
right
now you go viral for something bad, for something good. A couple of days, you're usually on to the next. Yeah. If it's something really bad, you're on there for a couple of weeks and then it's on to the next. No, she had coverage for over a year. What's that? Like just over a year. Slut shaming, calling her all names, body shaming. Could you imagine going through that at 24 years old? She was isolated for 8-9 months. She couldn't, talk to nobody, see nobody.
Wow.
Just her mom, and that's about it. No friends, no nothing.
Wow. I know. Who do you trust after that?
Nothing, no one. Like, how can you?
Your whole life is upside down at this point.
Upside down. It was crazy. And of course, the White House denied everything, the president. And it's like you understand in a way, like one man is going to say, oh, yes, is going to admit to it, Of course, you kind of understand the denial, but it's like, they threw her under the bus, and that was really messed up. And she went through years that she was like completely, isolated. She didn't come out or anything. And then about 2015, that's when the social media started really kicking up, and she started seeing, all this similar to what she went through, all this, bullying, online bullying and social media bullying. So she did a TED Talk. I think 15 Minutes of Shame or so. I think that was her documentary. In 2021, she actually did a documentary about the same thing, public shaming and this kind of situation. So she's had a few things going on. And she's, she spoke about, there was a gentleman back in 2015, Tyler, can't remember his last name, an 18-year-old Rutgers student, and his roommate recorded him having, a relation with a man and outed him basically to everyone, and he jumped from the George Washington Bridge. So that kind of took her out of her stump to come out and say, okay, maybe this is something I can do. But for years, she was in hiding. She couldn't find work. She couldn't, it was tough. It was tough. How do you're Monica Lewinsky. Like, how do you can't escape that. You go to an interview, and then in the field that she's in, political, they can't risk it. So I can only imagine, the kind of stuff that she went through. And, a lot of people go through nowadays. It's still happening, things like that. The social media frenzy, the cancel culture. It's I feel like shaming and that kind of stuff has been going on since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
So I don't think that concept is nothing new. It's always been like a social concept.
Not in that light.
Right.
And even us growing up, there was bullying and teasing and all of that other stuff, but it wasn't to this magnitude. These kids do things, and it's out there, and the bad thing about it is that it's out there forever now.
Forever in the world, because back then, you would bully, you would tease. It was your neighborhood. It was maybe your classroom, your school. If you were lucky, the whole school found out. But it was in the whole entire world.
Right.
It's crazy.
Now it's like that rapid.
Crazy.
Rapid.
So that was interesting, and she talked about so much other stuff. It was really interesting. If you guys get a chance, look into it. But yeah, I would love to even do a show on that. Because like you said, this is going on now, and it's something that to this day is very permanent. But yeah, that's all. I went down that rabbit hole, and I just found it crazy. Like, you say, yeah, she's 22, she should have known better, but come on. Your boss, and not only is the power, it's not only the age, and it's also the power dynamic, right? That was part of that whole Me Too movement. Because when you feel like your job is in jeopardy, you don't know if this is not just a regular boss. This is the president of the United States.
Right, and probably one of your biggest positions that you'll ever have. Right? Yeah.
So on top of that, you fell for it. You was probably feeling some type of way. He's showing you all this affection, but there's a lot of dynamics. So it's not just. I don't think it's just as simple as she should have known better. But. Anyway, you guys decide, look into it, and see how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, guys, if you like the conversation so far, please like, share, and subscribe.
On today's Sancocho, immigration has been on our minds lately, not just because it's been all over the place and everywhere, but because it's the undertone of who we are.
Right.
So what's happening right now in the U.S. that you think makes this topic so timely?
I think we're seeing it. We're seeing it every day with, it could be our algorithm or whatever, but it's right in our face. It's happening mainly to the Latin community, and that's something that we identify with. I hold it dear to my heart because, I know it's more than Mexicans, it's Cubans, it's every Spanish culture out there, but it's directly with the Latinos. Not that it wouldn't hit any less home if it wasn't, but this is what we're seeing. And I think that the administration right now could find a better way to handle it.
Right.
And what about you?
I agree. I think that the conversation, it's everywhere. The debates are everywhere, but it's mostly statistics and policies, borders. There's few conversations about humanity, the human aspects of the situation. And I feel that, if they concentrate on that first, not to say that the other things are not included in that, but switch the narrative, have humanity first, and then the rest will follow. And I think it's time to remind America that, the immigrant story is the American story.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. I agree with you.
What emotions and thoughts do you think this has been bringing up for you?
Feels lost. Because this is not the America I know, and we wouldn't handle it like this. We would handle it with some integrity, some love. We would find a better way to do it.
Right.
And so that I just feel lost. I feel like this is not the home that I grew up in. Yeah. What about you?
Same thing with me. It's confusion. Sadness, anger sometimes, and just mixed emotions. Yes, we do understand that there needs to be, things to be fixed in the system, right? But it has to be a better way. Like you said, it just has to. There has to be a better way to go about this. And I just, it just brings up memories of my story, and my process, and I can relate. So it's like it almost could have been me,
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah. While I know that I don't have to worry about, borders and, being deported or, worried about my immigration status because I'm a legal citizen. I did immigrate to the United States. I was born in Puerto Rico and I came here at a very young age. So, I am the immigrant story. I just, right. I'm lucky that I don't have to live in fear in this moment in time like a lot of people do. Right. They have to live in fear of everyday life, just going outside, So it's very reflective at this moment, and it's very mixed emotions.
Yeah, what if you can make one suggestion, what would it be to the administration?
I don't know. I think it's just like I said, I know things need to be fixed, right? I know that, the system was broken, and I know that there does need, like it needed to stop. Like, the influx did need to, come in. They needed to have a pause at the border. So these are things that make sense. And I think to the majority of people, that makes sense. Put a pause to this. Let's fix this situation and then come up with a solution of how to do it right. But, you say do it the right way, and then you have people doing it the right way, and they're being picked up in the court. I was watching a podcast, Drink Champs, and Mo Mayer. He has a Netflix special. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a comedian, very funny, hilarious. And took him 20 years to get his, he came in as a refugee, is it called? What is it called? Asylum.
Mm-hmm.
Asylum. So, but 20 years and, court dates, back and forth. So you have people doing it the right way, but it takes 20 years. That in itself, I think it's a problem, right? Because 20 years to get this done, I mean, there has to be a better way even in that process. But like I said, you have people doing it the right way, and they're being picked up at the courthourse, snatched away from their family. And then the lack of dignity that they're treating people with, that's a problem. Because, law enforcement, if a cop does, a regular police officer does some of the things that we're looking at, we wouldn't stand for it. It would be a full-on riot. Why is it okay for them to treat people this way? You have your orders, you have to execute a law, okay, but, treat people with dignity.
I think, on the flip side, and I'm not excusing any behavior, but when these actions are taking place, the agents, they have to do it where phones are out and people are surrounding them. They have to do it where their phones are out and people are surrounding them. And so once they step out of the vehicle, it's already a hostile environment. And so I get it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not favoring anybody,
I know
but just seeing it from their perspective, And
I can understand that to an extent, but if anything, if you're under the microscope, that should give you, it's like at work. If you're being watched, you're going to be on your best behavior.
Is there best behavior in this situation?
Dignity.
When
I just say dignity, like treat people, do your job, but because in this country we have due process. In this country we have human rights, that should not be only depending on your status, on your citizen status. Human rights should be universal. And I believe it is. I believe, they have UNs and they have all these worldwide courts that, they're strict with those things. So it's like human rights. So regardless of someone's status, people deserve to be treated a certain way. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I'm saying. I know, and I know what you're saying. It's a hard situation for everyone. And I have a nephew in law enforcement, so I know sometimes they find themselves in a position that it's hard, right? It's hard, and you want them to be safe as well, but it just have to be better. They have to treat people better. You have them covering their faces, which I can understand to an extent, but at the same time, I think that's giving them not all, because there are good people and everything, and there are bad apples and everything. So I'm sure it's not everyone, but it emboldens those bad apples, because no one's seeing who it is. You can't see, so it gives them a little bit of emboldenment to be able to portray bad behavior. So
I agree.
What's the purpose of this episode for you?
I think the purpose of the episode is to identify stories right? While I don't come from, my mom was the immigrant. She came from Dominican Republic, and my dad's from Puerto Rico. But there's an in-between story, right? The children, the families, not everybody's here to take advantage of the system. And, we've had several conversations on this topic. But, sometimes they're just coming for the opportunity. While, just like you said, people are going to take advantage. There's going to be bad apples, but there's a system built. People can't take advantage of something that is not already there. So it's about fixing that problem, whatever it is people are allowed to be taking advantage of. And there's a story in between there, and there's a humanistic aspect, right? It's all families. It's a broken system, but I think just having the conversation and continuing the conversation and realizing that it's humans.
Right.
Yeah. What about for you?
That's how I feel. I feel like, it can't all be politics and statistics. They have to put the humanity in it. And I think it'll ease the process a little bit. It's going to be a difficult process regardless, right? Because it's a complex situation, There's not really a right or wrong way, or there probably is, but everybody has a different opinion of what's the right or the wrong way, right? But I think if they shift the focus to humanity and the people, and then also integrate, your policies, then that'll work.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Going back to the story of you migrating over here, what's that story for you?
So, interesting enough, like I said, I came here when I was 5 years old, right? So I vividly remember my last memory in school in Puerto Rico. My friends gave me their snacks as a, farewell, goodbye thing. So, they gave me all their little snacks, as a farewell. And I remember being nervous and a little sad. I was leaving my friends behind, but I was excited because my grandmother hyped it up, like, making me feel, no, we're going on this big adventure, So, I was super excited when I got here. And then when I get here, my first memory here, and it probably didn't happen in that particular order, but it's like my first memory, right? I was 5.
Right.
So my first memory here, I remember it was cold. I had this pink puffy jacket on and I was riding the train, and somewhere behind the song, somewhere was playing Feliz Navidad by Jose Feliciano. It's still my favorite song to this day. It brings me to that to that time, every time. I love that song. So, that's like my first story. For some reason, that's my first vivid memory of being in this country, in the mainland, like Puerto Ricans call it. Fast forward, I didn't speak no English at all. Like nothing. Now, they teach more English in school, so more Puerto Ricans speak it. Like you go to the island, almost everybody speaks English. Back then, it wasn't as common, so I didn't speak no English. They put me in an English-only class. Could you imagine a 5-year-old you don't know what's going on, and they're talking in English, and you don't know? But yeah, that's what happened. And then fast forward, thank God kids are resilient, learn pretty fast. Before you know it, I'm translating for my mom and my grandmother, and that's a story. That's a common immigration story. You have kids in the post office, in the DMV. In school, the teachers, telling them he's misbehaving, but he ain't gonna tell them that part. He's gonna tell them all the good parts. But yeah, so that's the experience. That's the immigration experience, and it was just us, me, my mother, my grandmother, and my aunt, the 4 of us. And we didn't, because we were the first ones here, we didn't have no family, but, like all immigrants, we met, we found community, we found family, we opened the doors for the rest of our families to come. And, that's what most people do. My mother came to work hard, a big thing, you were saying that people always think they come here to take. Like my mother worked hard every day. My mother, not only was she, a home attendant, she used to take care of elderly. She eventually opened up her home to foster care and helped so many families and so many children. And that wasn't even on her radar. What happened was that my brother had like this group of friends, like 5 siblings. They were always in the house between my brother and my sister. And they were taken away from their, parent, mother, whatever the situation was, and they were going to separate them because it's hard to place 5 kids. They were big. They were big kids, preteens or whatever. It's hard to place 5 kids together. So my mother now wanting them, because that's who she was. Before that, she was, that house was always open. The neighbors. We have so many titis and aunts right now that literally is just neighbors that, because we take care of the kids. My mom, that's the immigrant life. So, my mother took the classes and, took them in so they wouldn't be separated. And then once they were able to go back home, she continued to just help so many families in that transition. Right. When she passed, she has so many of her kids, what she called them, like they couldn't, they came to see, they couldn't believe she was gone, and just everyone just sharing the memories of how she helped them and, different stories of them growing up in her house because they used to call her Ma. That was it. Yeah. So it's like that narrative that, immigrants only come here to take and only come here to abuse. No, we come here to give. We come here to give of us, to give our love, to give our culture, to give of who we are and share it with the world. To have an opportunity. And to have an opportunity of a better life,
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
What about you?
I not unfortunately, I was born here, Brooklyn. And so my mom was the Dominican one. She came as a student here and, my parents had a love story. They were married for 40 years. All of my siblings, same mother, same father, whatever. But, so my world was so small because, growing up in the Bronx, I thought that what I was going through, everybody was going through. And so we grew up with Latinos, blacks, Jamaicans, a bunch of islanders or whatever. But it wasn't until I got into the city and I started working into the city that I started seeing these different people and the financial disparities that we have. And I thought we were poor. I thought everybody was poor in New York.
Right.
And quickly that went right out the window. And, as far as being, and this is where I feel like I can relate with the Latin community, that's migrating over here, is that I was taking care of a restaurant. I was working as a restaurant, at a restaurant, and a police officer was there, and he was waiting to be served, and he was with a Latina partner.
Okay.
And he was smoking, and you could smell that. Right? In a restaurant, you could smell that. And I told the officer, you can't smoke in here. And she nudged him and he was like, I don't have to listen to this. And he used a Latin slur that we haven't heard in, I'm not even going to say it, right? And all I could do was, it's one of those situations where you talk to people and you're like, oh, if I was in this situation, this is what I would do. I'm like, all I see is white shirt. Right. I'm like, everything I want to do right now, the end result is prison, right? So I went to the back, I got on the phone with my supervisor, and she's like, just stay on the phone with me. Wow. The whole time, just like tears coming down because the anger is so much.
Right.
When I get angry, it's black, and I can't see, I can't think. It's bad from there. So, at the end, they took care of him. He left or whatever. And like that. So I relate when it comes to that, how they're being treated. Not saying that my experience right up, because you see people being thrown on the floor. You see them being pulled away from their families. Nothing like that. But just having someone who's supposed to protect us say something like that, that hurts, So, and, there's people that have gone through worse when it comes to police officers. But, again, just like with your mom and my mom, they didn't come here to take advantage of a system. They came for the opportunity.
Right.
And so, yeah. When was it for you that you realized that your family was different?
Well, I think for me, obviously, I learned that a little quicker or sooner than most people because, like I said, I didn't come here speaking any English, and all of a sudden, everyone around here, me speaks English, right? So I'm like, I'm in this only English class, and it's I'm the only one in the DMV translating for the adults. No one in my age group is doing that. So for me, it was pretty immediate to know that I'm very different from most of my peers.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, it was once I got into the city. Because again, like I just said, I was in the Bronx. We were always, everything that I was going through, everybody around me was going through. And so once I got to working in the city, and back in the days, we used to have to apply by paper application.
Remember?
So we started, my first job, we walked from 96th Street all the way down to 14th Street, filling out applications, and finally I got a job on 14th Street,
Me
the last
too.
stop.
That was my first job at 14th Street too.
And but it was just walking all of those neighborhoods, I realized, wait a minute, these people actually have money.
Wow.
They're not going through what I'm going through. Oh, hell no. Like, that was the realization. Yeah.
So you was already in your late teens.
And then in our neighborhood, we weren't exposed to white people.
Right.
And so, you know what I'm saying? So to see that many white people, it was like...
Oh, okay.
The most white people we saw were like,
on
if
TV.
they were teachers.
Oh,
if they
on
were
TV.
teachers, yeah.
How did immigration shape the way you see yourself or the way you saw yourself then?
So I think even till today, like, I'm American, and I'm stuck between, I'm not Puerto Rican, I'm not Dominican. I am those things, right? I identify as those things, and I'm American as well, but I don't feel any of them, right? So I feel all of them, but none of them at the same time. I feel like the only place I feel like I'm at home is New York.
Right.
So I identify as a Latino because that's who I am.
Right.
But for Puerto Rico, I'm never gonna be Puerto Rican. For Dominican Republic, I'm never gonna be, and for Americans, like when we say Americans, we think of like white Americans. I'm Latino, right? I belong to those places. And so, it's I love who I am as a person, but that's still till today. I'm just a Latino.
Yeah.
I don't belong. I'm in no man's land.
Yeah.
That's what about for you?
It's interesting because I have a similar feeling, right? Even though I was born in Puerto Rico, because I came so young and I assimilated so early, I always felt not enough, right? So I went from not speaking any English at all to only speaking English for I don't know how long. Luckily, my mom spoke English, Spanish at home, so it's not like I didn't speak no Spanish, but my Spanish is a little matadito compared to other Puerto Ricans.
Yeah.
So you never feel, especially coming here so long, you feel like you're not Puerto Rican enough, like you're not, how do people stay so close to their cultura, the people that migrate, is it because they come later on in the years that, they're able to, stay so censored? And then of course you don't feel enough because I wasn't born here, and I had to, I'm Puerto Rican, born over there, so I'm in the same situation in you, even though we got different stories. I feel the same way for a long time, but I've come into myself and I realized that I'm both. Like you say, I am Latina and I am both. I'm Puerto Rican, even if my R's don't always roll the way they're supposed to, and I'm American. That's right, and I'm American to the full. I'm a New Yorker all the way because this is New York raised me, so I'm both. And I've dealt with that identity crisis for a while, and I think most people do.
Do you feel like your brother has a heavier Puerto Rican accent than you?
You think so?
I think so.
Really? So isn't that crazy? Because I'm the only one born and raised in Puerto Rico. My siblings were both born and raised here, and you're saying that he has a thicker accent.
He has a thicker Puerto Rican accent.
So that's probably why. I feel like I assimilated so much that sometimes I feel like you're trying to be gringa or something.
I listen to him all the time, and I'll be like, "Te está colado."
He swears. You cannot tell him otherwise because he really, he's all about that. But so that that feeling of identity, it has followed me for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So how does it feel for you to discuss immigration publicly? Because sometimes we have these conversations as Latinos. We're afraid to speak publicly for one reason or another. How does it feel to have those conversations?
I think it's great on our end to have the conversation and to be able to say, you know what, we stand in unity and solidarity with the Latin community because we love Mexicans, we adore them, we cherish them. They're the ones that are doing the jobs that nobody else wants to do. Mm-hmm. They make this country move. Believe it or not, the food industry is affected by them. You know what I'm saying? We need them. We need everybody who's here and who's working, who's making this system move along.
Right.
The government system is broken, and yes, there's always going to be criminals that are going to make it through. That's with any race. They're going to make it through, but we need to just fix the system. We need to just fix the system. That's it. That's how I feel. What about you?
Talking about it feels good, right? Because it feels like I just want to express myself regardless of of any situation. Seeing it being discussed positively, it feels good, right? Because different voices need to be heard. But some of the conversations are frustrating, because people are just, like I said, it's all statistics and this and that, and it lacks compassion.
Right.
A lot of the conversation just lacks compassion. So I think that the focus needs to be shifted a little bit, in order to make things the path a little easier going forward. It's a long path. I know that. I understand that it's a long path.
It is.
But if the compassion is put into it, it'll be an easier path forward.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. What misconceptions do you wish people would unlearn?
Again, we're going to hone in on that. People are coming here to take advantage of a system, right? They want the opportunity. They want the opportunity that I think a lot of us take for granted because we have it so easily. And yeah, we were born here, but it doesn't mean that we can't share and we can't advance, because when one of us gets an opportunity, when everybody gets an opportunity, we flourish as a country. We flourish, we succeed as human beings because everybody has something different to bring to the table. That could be our next scientist, our next person that cures cancer. everybody gets that opportunity. Yes, we have a broken system, and yes, there's always going to be people that take advantage, but that's what it is.
Right.
That's what it is, and we just have to fix it, and we have to do it together. What about you?
I agree with you. I think, that the biggest misconception, and I think that's what it makes some people so angry, is that, they're just here to take. And that's not it. 99% of them are just here to contribute, to love, to work hard, to move forward. I think people forget that America is an immigrant story, not just now. America has always been an immigrant story. We weren't the first ones here. The Indians were the first ones here, and then the Native Americans. I think that's what they like to be called. I apologize.
No, that's what it is.
Native Americans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we weren't the first ones here. We've had so many waves of immigration throughout the the centuries and the years. Whether it been Irish, European, Brit. So America is a nation of immigrants. What all of a sudden? Yes, did it probably get a little out of control? Does it need?
It's out of control.
Right? Does it need a little fixing? Does it little? Yes, okay, that we can understand that, but don't make it seem like, the new immigrants, we're the worst of the worst. No, this isn't. All of a sudden, we're taking over of the natives. No, baby, the natives haven't been in control in a while, and the whole nation is a nation of immigrants. So people need to remember that, like, America is a nation of immigrants. It's not just now; it's been going on for centuries. Yeah. So, they're not here to take; they're here for opportunity. The same way your ancestors came here for opportunities and a better life.
Yeah,
so that's just the way I think.
Absolutely. What does home mean to you now?
So, over the years, like I said, I've had that identity crisis. Am I Puerto Rican now? I realize that home is not a place, it's not a geographical location. Home is family, home is love. Home is the memory of my mother's kitchen. Home is the legacy that she left, the teachings. She raised us in the church, all the foundation that she gave us. My immediate family, our extended family. Home is not a place. Home is the people. That's why I feel home is the people. What about you?
Home is every time I'm around the family, every time we get together.
It's people.
Just seeing the kids grow up, like, that's home, right? New York is always going to be that place for me where I feel the most comfortable.
Right.
But just being around family, like, that's home now.
Yeah.
How do you navigate feeling like you live between two worlds?
So, like I said, I've learned I don't have to choose, right? I learned I don't have to fit a specific mold. It's like you said, we're Latinos. I'm Latina, period, right? So, and that doesn't have a specific look or a specific sound or a specific shape. It's just who I am. Whether I'm a No Sabo kid, whether I speak perfect Spanish, whether I've been to the island, whether I've been, whether the people have been back home. I don't have to choose, that took a while for me to get to that place in my life that I don't have to choose. I am me, regardless. Yeah. I'm just who I am. Yeah. What about you?
For me, even though I made that last statement where I really don't belong, I'm so proud. Yeah. I'm so proud to be a Latino. I'm so proud to have lived the life and have had the upbringing that I've had. Like, that's what it is for me. That is like, there's nothing, I wouldn't trade that, the culture and everything that I had growing up. I wouldn't trade it for anything. What have you learned about belonging or self-worth from your experience?
Self-worth is and belonging. It's the people around you, like you said. It's the family, is the love that you're shown. And it takes us a while sometimes, and especially I think at this age. You mentioned that a few times before in previous episodes, how you feel good about this stage of your life. Yeah. And I think the older we get, people are so afraid to grow old. Yeah. Like they say. But I feel like the older you get, the more you grow into yourself, and the more comfortable you are with who you are and who you're meant to be. You don't have as many doubts. Yeah. I mean, at least that's been my experience. The more I've grown into my just who I am, and just understanding that I'm enough. How about you?
Yeah. So even now, more than ever, I get to bring who I am into the mix of, like, when you're meeting new people, because now at this age you're you have your set people, and then you have your new people,
Right.
and then you can be proud,
Right.
right? And so that there's a value in that nobody else can bring. You bring a certain value to whatever mix you're in, and if anybody wants to accept that or not accept it, you're good. You're good in life, and so that for me is better than gold. It's better than gold for me.
I love that. I think from your story, and the things that and your experience that you shared with us today, I think what I took from that was that even though, our stories are so, not similar, right? I'm an immigrant. I immigrated here from Puerto Rico. You were born and raised here. We have such similarities, right? In the feelings of not feeling like we belong, in our surroundings. So our stories are so similar, and I wish that people would understand that our stories are so similar. Whether you're an immigrant or not, whether you're American or not. If you look at our stories are just people. They're, you listen to stories, they're so similar in so many ways. No matter how different you think you are, we're not as different as we think we are.
Let me tell you, I'm gonna take it back to my second time in college, and I used to drive from school, and there were classmates that lived in the same area, so I used to drop them off. Mm-hmm. And one day we're sitting in the car, like we were real cool. I'm still cool with one of them till today. Okay. And we were sitting in the car, and I don't know how we got on the topic, but we started speaking about our fathers. Okay. And all three of us, first time in life that we're meeting each other, right? Like we're in the same school, we know each other, and we had the same story. One guy was black, the other, I forget, she was Latina, but I forget where she was from, and we had the same exact story, and we connected, and from that day, like, we bonded, and like I said, one of them is my friend till today, Michael. Yeah,
I have a similar situation where I had a friend, she was actually, I think she was Irish or something in college, and we're going back to, saying childhood stories and this, that, and that, and we had so many similar stories, and you wouldn't think, because if people don't stop and talk, listen to your neighbor, get to know them, I guarantee you guys got more in common than you don't.
So guys, if you like this episode, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. It helps.
It does.
So, any closing notes?
No.
No?
No.
No.
All right, primos. Catch you next time on This Time Now.